Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. It is maintenance day today. This is our first major issue that we've had with our tiny camper. Our camper is a 2022 23TE Thor Gemini. It is a small C-class. Some people classify it as a B+, but it's on the Ford chassis. But in February, I came home from Arizona and unloaded the refrigerator. Things were cool, nice and cool, the whole trip in Arizona. We came to pack up for Florida at the end of February, I think it was, and I had left this door open to let the refrigerator defrost. I shut it down, let it defrost, warm up so I could clean it up. Well, when I came out to reload for the next trip, all of this trim to probably about right here and across the top was angled out probably this far, wasn't it?
Yes, it was big old gap.
It was hanging out big. I thought my refrigerator was falling out of the wall, but we decided it was just the trim. We couldn't find any screws in all of this trim here, so we just took Gorilla Glue and we Gorilla Glued our trim back up.
Which seemed to work. And
it seemed to work, yes. But every trip that I've been on since then, my refrigerator has struggled to keep things warm. So this last trip we went to Gatlinburg, and Scotty looked at it.
And I said, something ain't right.
Yeah, he said something's not right. He gets something out of the fridge and it's warm. So I get to looking a little bit harder. And this is what we found. We should have seen it to start with. But you can see here, this trim. They call it decorative trim. It's flush here, but as we go up, this gap is getting bigger and bigger, and you could feel, as the refrigerator was running, you could feel hot air blowing, so that's blowing down into the fridge, and it's my refrigerator can't keep up. So our tiny camper we're close to 20,000 miles on it. When we bought it, it was about 2,500 miles maybe. It was well taken care of before we bought it, and we've tried to baby it. We've tried to do the best we can with it. And we understand that driving down the road, causes a little wear and tear. It's probably rough on it. It's an all-wheel drive. We like to find the gravel roads, but I wouldn't have expected my refrigerator to fall apart. So yesterday I spent the morning watching videos, and the most that I could find is people taking the Norcolds out and putting in like residential fridges. There's no video on this. At first we thought, maybe it was the subfloor for the fridge, that maybe they just kind of half done it. But we took out the first drawer here, and you can see underneath it's a full floor. There's no damage. It's supported very well. It has good support under there. But we can't figure out why it's falling backwards. Why is it falling backwards at the top? We can't figure that out. So we're going to take all the trim down and pull the refrigerator a little bit and see what we see in there, see what we can find in there. Because at this point, we can't pull it forward just to put the screws back in. So let's get to work on this project. The first thing we want to attempt to do is take this door off. Got a hinge at the top and a hinge at the bottom, and we'll get the door off and then go from there. We'll go from there. The only problem I'm worried about for the trim is because I did glue the trim back on. I was a little silly. I've never had anything this fancy, y'all. I'm gonna call it fancy. I'm glamping in this thing. But when the trim first came down, I was like, there's no glue. They didn't glue the trim up. So yeah. I think it's just held together by screws. It is. I think it is. And it's good in theory until it's not. Here are the screws that were holding the refrigerator. And I mean, they're not even an inch long. You'd think there would have been longer screws to anchor it more. So I don't know what's gonna happen or what we're gonna do. Maybe we can put longer screws in there. We'll have to put, I'm thinking those little anchor pieces, because these are probably destroyed. These screw holes are probably destroyed. I'll just take apart and take we're gonna take it on apart.
So at the top of the refrigerator door, right here, is a hinge pin.
And it's just got just a couple of little screw threads, and you just turn it a few times and lift it out. I was trying to unscrew it like a bolt.
So,
and then you just slide it off of the bottom hinge pin.
not that difficult once you know what you're doing.
Right, but we had to figure out what we were doing, so it took us a few minutes. Okay, we're starting at the hinge plate. And we're gonna take this loose. And we'll just work our way around and remove all of the little screws in here. See what we got going on with this fridge.
Well, we might have to take it off.
Yep, we'll have to take out that the bottom hinge pin to get to that third screw.
Yeah, but it's already separated right here. The only thing holding it together is the weather stripping.
Okay, all right.
Ready?
All right, all the screws are out. Oh, you know, the biggest part with this air trim is me adding more Gorilla Glue. Oh, it's moving. The whole thing is moving. Okay, so I don't think that's coming apart down there.
Oh, this right here comes apart.
Oh, that's nice. Ooh, that looks like it needs some cleaning.
I think it's just that weather stripping that's holding it together.
Okay, but it's moving. Look, the whole refrigerator is sliding out, y'all. Now, we do have an installation book for this, and I think when you set this refrigerator in, it already has the trim attached because of the weather stripping that's in there. So that's the only thing that's holding it on right now.
That metal piece is all underneath here.
Oh, I think it all slides out then. The whole thing slides out. If we can just get this front edge. Oh, look, that's got a metal piece too. Goes across the top there. All right, if you've ever wanted to know what the inside guts of the Norcold N41X or N51X looks like, here it is. We are a 3-way refrigerator. Do you want to get it out enough to see the legs in the back, or?
I don't think it has any. I have no clue.
Do you think our screws will hold when we put the screws back in the refrigerator? I think it's ripped out because, I mean, pieces are falling. Oh, look, we're the N51 right there. I didn't know if I was N41 or N51, so we're a 3.5 cubic foot refrigerator. We got it pulled out about a third or so. This is what we have figured out. We've got this front trim put back on there, but our little holes where all the screws go in to hold this trim to the fridge are stripped out. And up here on the top, let me step up a little taller. Step up a little taller. There's also screw mounts here. Screws go in here to hold our little motherboard for the refrigerator control. So we had to take those screws out to be able to get this trim to slide back up against the refrigerator. So Scotty has gone now to get a little bit thicker screw. All right, the little bit bigger screw, bigger diameter screw is helping to draw the frame into the refrigerator because the holes in the refrigerator and the plastic were stripped. So we got all of the top put back together, and he's working on getting there. New screws put in, and then we can add the door back. All right, guys, here it is. We've got our door latch back on. The hinge plates are back on. That is much, much better. It won't be leaking warm air, I hope, into my refrigerator.
So we're hoping, since we installed larger screws, it'll hold a little bit better and won't come back. It won't come apart again.
I don't really feel like it had anything to do with that door weight where I left the door open, but It probably didn't help matters either.
But it seems awful sturdy now, but you know.
Sturdier, not as sturdy.
When you're driving down bumpy roads, it's hard on it.
Yeah.
So we hope we've solved our problem by using some screws that were a little bit bigger in diameter. But we noticed also that when we was taking this apart, that it did have some duct tape on it. And so we enforced our repair with some duct tape, hoping that'll help hold it together.
Help hold it together, and a little bit of insulation for where the frame meets the refrigerator itself. Because there's just not a lot of space, and this was where all of our heat was coming from for when it was broken.
It's good for now. Let's just hope that it holds up. If not, we'll have to
break it down
try
again.
something different. So now it's time to push it back in, and Melinda will go outside and make sure none of the wires or hoses get in the way as I'm pushing it back.
Right.
Here we go. It feels like it needs to be propped up in the back because the top is in, but the bottom isn't. And that might have been our problem. We discovered when we pushed the refrigerator back that we had a big gap down here at the bottom, and it was flush up here at the top. So I guess when they installed it, they forced it in there, and then there's so much pressure up here that it fell back, and that's what pulled the screws through the holes and stripped the holes out originally, and that's why it fell back and gave us this big old gap in here, letting our cold air out and the hot air in.
Even though it has the sturdy platform underneath it, above the drawer,
it was just sitting at an angle.
It was just sitting at an angle.
So I shimmed it in the back to bring the front forward, and I'm hoping that'll solve all of our problems and we'll never have to do this again.
Oh my goodness, why did you say that?
So now we got to install the door, and I'm going to hold the door in place. I'll set it on this pin right here, and then I'll get it in place, and Melinda will drop the pin in the top.
Right. And the only question we have is our little door lock there, because it gives you a gap, a little room for adjustment. So we may have to readjust
I will loosen that
the door
up
lock
right now to make it easier.
Dropping it on that bottom hinge pin. Sure wish I could see. Oh, there we go. All right, now we're gonna wiggle the door. There we go.
Hard to find that sweet spot.
Yep, and I think you're all right there. Go ahead and close the door, and we'll tighten that hinge down.
Oh, I think we got that upside
down, don't we?
Yes, I think so.
Well, now we know.
This is our access panel from the outside. So while I was pushing it in, Melinda was back here making sure that none of our wires and our propane hose gets in a bind and gets damaged while we're pushing it back. But we did learn something in the process that while you're pulling it out, we should have came back here and disconnected a few things. We had a couple wires that were pulled away from the refrigerator.
The ground and the 12 volt.
And now we got to figure out which is which by looking at our diagram in our owner's manual. So that is something we did learn in the process.
And make sure your propane is off before you start yanking on the fridge too. All right, our camper project is done. This was our first major fix on it.
And it was very intimidating to start with. But once you dig into it a little bit, not so much.
Yeah. Of course, we watched other YouTube videos to kind of figure out a little bit about RV refrigerators. Did some more research as we went along on Google, so I hope we have it figured out.
We'll be taking it out for a test drive here soon.
Yeah.
And hopefully everything will work perfectly.
It's going to. It will.
Yep.